The St. Augustine orphanage for boys smelled of stale bread and old dreams. It was the kind of place where childhood went to die, a grey, looming structure on the outskirts of a town that had forgotten its name. Greg Avalt arrived there at the age of 4, a small, quiet boy with eyes that held the weight of a past he couldn't recall. No one came to visit, no one asked about him. He became another forgotten face in the crowded dormitory, a ghost haunting the halls. Greg clung to the few possessions he carried, a worn teddy bear missing an eye and a faded photograph of a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He didn't remember her, not really, but something in her gaze sparked a flicker of warmth in his lonely heart. He kept the photo tucked away, a secret talisman against the harsh realities of the orphanage. The days bled together in a monotonous routine of chores, meager meals, and uncomfortable silences. The caretakers, hardened by years of dealing with lost and forgotten children, ruled with an iron fist. There was little kindness, even less love. Survival became the name of the game, a game Greg played with quiet desperation. As Greg grew older, the orphanage's bleakness seeped into his bones. He became withdrawn, his silence mistaken for weakness. The other boys, hardened by their own experiences, sensed his vulnerability. They descended upon him like wolves, their taunts and jeers echoing through the cavernous halls. There was a particular group led by a hulking boy named Ricky, who seemed to take particular pleasure in tormenting Greg. They tripped him in the hallways, stole his meager possessions, and whispered cruel lies about his parents. Greg endured it all, his silence a shield he hoped would protect him from further pain. One day, Ricky cornered Greg in the washroom. He shoved Greg against the wall, his face contorted in a mask of rage. "What are you gonna do, crybaby?" he sneered, his breath hot on Greg's face. Ricky ripped the faded photograph from Greg's grasp, laughter echoing around them as he tore it to shreds. Something snapped within Greg. Years of pent-up anger, fear, and resentment surged to the surface. He lashed out, his fist connecting with Ricky's jaw in a satisfying crunch. Ricky staggered back, momentarily stunned. It was the first time Greg had fought back, the first time he'd allowed himself to feel anything but fear. The fight was short-lived. Ricky, enraged, regained his footing and tackled Greg to the ground, raining blows upon him. Dazed, Greg saw a flicker of light catch Ricky's eye. It was a lighter, the one Ricky used to burn ants in the yard. The flame danced closer, a malevolent beacon in the darkness. Panic surged through Greg. He kicked out blindly, connecting with Ricky's chest. The lighter clattered to the ground, landing near a puddle of spilled rubbing alcohol. The room exploded in a flash of light and heat. Flames roared to life, licking at the walls, consuming everything in their path. Greg didn't remember escaping the inferno. He only remembered the searing heat, the choking smoke, and the look of pure terror on Ricky's face. He ran, his lungs burning, until he collapsed on the orphanage lawn, the distant wail of sirens filling the night air. The fire at St. Augustine's orphanage was ruled an accident, a tragedy blamed on faulty wiring. Greg Avalt, the only survivor, was hailed as a hero, a boy who had miraculously escaped the flames. But Greg knew the truth. He was not a hero. He was an arsonist, a monster who had unleashed hell upon the only home he'd ever known. The guilt gnawed at him, a constant companion. He was plagued by nightmares, haunted by the screams of the boys who hadn't escaped, forever trapped within the inferno. He confessed his crime, whispering the truth to a social worker who dismissed it as trauma-induced delusion. Fear twisted its way into Greg's heart. He was a danger to himself, a danger to others. He was a living, breathing embodiment of the fire that had consumed his past. The authorities, recognizing the trauma Greg had endured, decided to place him in witness protection. They erased Greg Avalt, replacing him with a new identity, Johnathan Kovinsky. Section 5. The Fire's Rise. Johnathan Kovinsky tried to outrun his past. He buried Greg Avalt deep within himself, desperately clinging to the hope of a normal life. He moved from town to town, state to state, always looking over his shoulder, always waiting for the flames to catch up to him. But the fire within him refused to be extinguished. It simmered beneath the surface, fueled by a potent cocktail of guilt, rage, and a strange sense of justice. He couldn't explain it, not really, but the sight of a flickering flame, the smell of smoke in the air, brought him a perverse sense of calm. He began small, setting abandoned buildings ablaze, watching from a distance as the flames devoured everything in their path. Each fire was a release, a purging of the demons that haunted his waking hours. With each inferno, Johnathan Kovinsky shed another layer of his former self, becoming more phantom than man. The press, hungry for a story, dubbed him the Firestarter, a phantom arsonist who haunted the night. His crimes escalated, becoming bolder, more daring. He targeted symbols of corruption and greed, leaving behind a trail of ash and smoldering wreckage. Sometimes his fires resulted in casualties, adding to the weight of his guilt. Section 6. Jonathaning a city holds its breath. The term Jonathaning entered the national lexicon. It became a verb, a chilling synonym for arson, a spectre that haunted every city council meeting, every late-night news report. The authorities poured resources into catching him, but Johnathan Kovinsky was a ghost, a whisper of smoke, always one step ahead of the law. Some saw him as a menace, a dangerous criminal who needed to be stopped. Others, however, whispered his name with a strange reverence. He became a folk hero, a vigilante striking back against the injustices of the world. Graffiti depicting flames and the initials JK appeared on buildings, a symbol of defiance, a testament to the fear and fascination he inspired. Jonathan's actions left a trail of destruction, and the casualties were a grim reminder of his reach. The fear he instilled was palpable, as families mourned their losses and the city grappled with the aftermath. Cities held their breath, waiting for the next fire to erupt, the next headline to scream his name. He had become a force of nature, as unpredictable and as destructive as the flames he wielded. Section 7. Silence falls. And then, just as abruptly as they began, the fires stopped. Johnathan Kovinsky vanished. The whispers died down, replaced by speculation and unease. Had the authorities finally caught up to him? Had he met his end in a blaze of his own making? Years passed. The legend of Johnathan Kovinsky faded, relegated to the realm of urban legend, a cautionary tale whispered to misbehaving children. The authorities, eager to close the book on the case, announced that Johnathan Kovinsky was dead, killed in a gas explosion in a remote cabin. The public, hungry for closure, readily accepted this narrative. But some, those who had followed his case closely, noticed the inconsistencies. The evidence was circumstantial, the details vague. Johnathan Kovinsky, the master of illusion, the phantom who had danced through the flames of justice, was not one to go down so easily. Section 8. The Ghost of Johnathan Kovinsky. Whispers of Johnathan Kovinsky sightings persisted. A shadowy figure glimpsed near the scene of a suspicious fire. A cryptic message scrawled on a charred wall. He became an urban legend, a bogeyman lurking in the shadows, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, some flames never truly die. The authorities dismissed these sightings as hoaxes, the desperate attempts of attention seekers eager to keep the legend alive. But a select few, those who had looked into the abyss of Johnathan Kovinsky's crimes and seen the reflection of their own darkness staring back, knew better. Johnathan Kovinsky was out there somewhere. He was a ghost, a phantom, a creature of ash and smoke. He was a reminder that even in the ashes of destruction, a flicker of hope can remain. Whether that hope was a promise of redemption or a threat of further chaos, no one could say. Section 9. Unanswered questions. The question remained, why did Johnathan Kovinsky stop? What force, what power could extinguish the flames that burned so brightly within him? Was it remorse, a belated understanding of the destruction he had wrought? Or was it something more calculated, a strategic retreat designed to lull his pursuers into a false sense of security? The truth, like Johnathan Kovinsky himself, remained elusive, shrouded in mystery and speculation. He became a ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. He was a reminder that some wounds never truly heal, some scars never fade, and some fires continue to burn long after the last ember has died. The legend of Johnathan Kovinsky, the orphan boy turned phantom arsonist, was a story without an ending, a burning question mark etched against the night sky.